Welcome to today's podcast. My name's Jamie Radford, your host of the Pay It Forward podcast. And I have a superb, absolutely extraordinary individual joining me today. He's a friend of the family, as they say, Brad Burton. Brad, I'm not even going to bother introducing yourself. You can do it better, an awful lot better than me. Over to you, mate. Tell us all about yourself.
Oh, well, listen, it depends which version of me you want. You can have the bum who left school when he was 16 with no qualifications, who got addicted to drugs twice, who got shot at when he was 21, who's done 4 years on benefits and delivered pizzas at 31. Or you can have Brad Burton, the UK's #1 motivational business speaker, their keynoter for the APA, and of course, a 4-time best-selling business author and the founder of 4Network, in the UK's largest joined-up network before the pandemic. So two sides of the same coin, Jamie, but we are going to talk today about the good version of Brad, not necessarily the bum version.
I told you, look, how would I ever have matched that? But look, Brad, look, we've got 30 minutes. We're going to power through this. Look, the whole concept around Pay It Forward. There you go. Look, he's got his timer on. I'm up against the clock. The whole concept of Pay It Forward is I go out to experienced leaders, business leaders, people that have made a difference. And ultimately, the concept is advice and guidance for those people that need it, people that about your guidance, your advice. And Brad, you're one of the best in the industry in terms of you just give everything for free. You're so honest, open. So my first question to you is about what does Pay It Forward really mean to you in terms of how do you help people in their personal development?
You know, because I think that the reality is that it's about making a positive difference. That is something that is my primary directive. Used to put a USB cable in my head and say, but I'm about making a positive difference. And that's what I think Paying It Forward's about. It is about making a positive difference. You know, along my journey, I've had people that have helped me, people that have given me steers, and that's exactly what I do now. It is about making a positive difference and giving people the strength and the courage to make the decisions that they know deep down they want to make.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brad. And look, you mentioned earlier there's two versions of Brad. So I don't want to delve in too much about the old Brad, but tell us how you've got to where you are, because the old Brad has made the new Brad, let's be honest. So tell us a little bit about your story, because that'll give the audience a little bit of concept and sort of background about where you are and where you've got to and where you're going.
Jamie, I'm stealing that. The old Brad was responsible for the new Brad. You know, I think what we do in life is we're so guilty of kind of trying to just speed past any of the bad stuff that's happened in our life. It is so formative, and I think that's what an expert is. An expert is someone that has made all the mistakes in a particular niche field. So when it comes to motivational speaking, I've made them all. When it comes to networking, I've made them all. Business, made them all. Marriage, made them all. Right? And this is what life is about. You have to make decisions. You have to make mistakes, and you have to learn from those decisions. You have to learn from those mistakes. And I think that's what I do beautifully. And that is why, you know, most people have got a story. And if I go back far enough in your life, I'll find something questionable. If I go back in anyone's life, I'll find something questionable. The difference is most people don't talk about it. And I think, you know, my profession as a motivational speaker, my job is to talk about things that people don't want to. And I look at my life and I look at where I've come from, and I wouldn't change a single thing, Jamie. You know, the worst day of my life happened in 1995. I got shot at, as I mentioned before. And the reason that you and I are talking right now is because I got shot at in 1995, sorry. And the reason that I live in Somerset right now is because I got shot at in 1995. And the reason I started a business in Somerset was because so everything happens for a reason, even the shitty stuff. And I think that's what we need to look at, is what is the lesson in the past? What is the lesson in this difficult time? And that's what I do.
Yeah, and Brad, you mentioned earlier that, you know, you're a keynote of the APA, the Accounts Payable Association. You have been several times. You've done it virtually, you've done it physically, and let's be honest, you've just inspired a community. So what I love to tell our stories, we're like you say, we've all got a backstory. We were once a community. We then sort of forged the network and sort of a sector. We're now a profession, and you've helped massively along that journey. And what I know from yourself and becoming a friend and a colleague is that you put your money where your mouth is. You help and support individuals at all levels. So not only do you go into businesses, you do it on a personal level. So tell me a bit about this stuff you're doing, this work with Brad, this sort of the mentoring programs, the teams, the size of the teams. Tell me a little bit more about that, Brad, because if I'm honest, that's exactly where our audience are. They want to know, what's the next evolution of Brad?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I sold my business a year ago, 4Networking, my national business network. And it was almost like having a eulogy on social media, because everyone was saying, thank you, Brad, for all you've done. And it was like, whoa, like genuinely, this is the things that people were saying. And you don't realize that you're out there doing your thing by default. Helping just comes naturally to me, is what I kind of stand for. But I do three things now, and it kind of worked out since I sold the business, like what do I do, how do I do it, and what's my approach. And I do three things. I do motivational speaking, which is, like I say, where you and I first connected. And I always remember that APA 2019. What a day. I mean, it was almost like it was the evolution of the APA. It was like, this is what it is. And it was the evolution of me. It was just an amazing moment. So I'll do motivational speaking. And obviously, I do keynotes like Zero and Costa, and I do motivational speaking. So effectively 45 minutes of high energy to really get people thinking. But also I do Teammaker, something called Teammaker, which I go into organizations and I help bring the team together, because I think that where's it's gone wrong since the pandemic, is cultures have been affected. There's a lot of work from home, which actually some works for people and some. We're not really sure what work from home means. We're not sure what hybrid means. So it's got a different interpretation for everyone. So I help bring people together, help bring team together, and I help get people back on the same page. We use 50 elaborate A1 sheets. We choose 30 of them, we put them on the wall, and it allows people within the team, regardless of whether it's a team of 8 or a team of 8, to come up and to contribute. And you end up with these amazing worksheets. And it's just a different way of doing it. And when twinned with my experience at presenting and also team building, I think that's the bit. I built a team from nothing, a national network of 800 people, and obviously we're running 500 networking meetings across the UK every single month. So I've got a good understanding about what it requires to build a team, to get them inspired, to keep them focused, to keep them fired up, and that's what we do. And then we've got the one-to-one mentoring. Even if it's things like dealing with life decisions, should I get a divorce, right? I want to lose weight. I want to be a better version. Should I change career? I want to get promoted. All these things, which actually you kind of, when you're an adult, you kind of keep them there, or you're not really sure. That's what I do. I give clarity and I bounce people into making the decisions that they want to do or they need to. And it was funny because you said to me prior to this conversation, how's things going? And in fact, you share it, but share it openly.
Yeah, look, Brad, you've either got the best or the worst business model ever, because you fix people, which means you've got an end date to a customer. Now, the reality is, anybody who runs a business knows you have a life cycle of a customer. Usually it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Brad fixes people. So the better he becomes at his job, fixing people, giving people lifetime achievements, getting over hurdles, whatever it will be, means that Brad isn't one of these people that sits there, takes your money and says, keep paying me and I'll keep checking in. He checks out at that point. He monitors you. He checks in with you, which he's done with me many times. So you've probably got the best and the worst business model. So if I was your business advisor, Brad, you need to look at your business model. But what a phenomenal job you do.
I had something. This is a mock-up, by the way. This isn't real. But 442. This is how I mentor people. I kind of effectively like a computer game, heads-up display. And an individual that I was working with was 442. You know what about those numbers? If you look here on the, you've got words like family, relationships, fitness, diet, business, finances, focus, and so forth. So they had 4 passes, 4 50-50s, and 2 fails. Interestingly, I was working with a client, and they've gone from, having, I think it was something like 1 pass, like 7 50-50s and 1 fail. Anyway, it brought them up. They're now 10-0-0, 10 passes, 0-0. And that's what you can do as a human being. There's a good version of you and there's a better version of you. And it's really, how do we get that better version of you? And when I look at my life, I've talked to you before about being a bum. I asked myself a question: how did I change from being that guy to this guy? And the same methodology that I used with that whole process that I do with mentoring, which is called Life Check.
Well, look, Brad, I mean, because I know a little bit about your background, obviously, and I've had the pleasure of seeing you many a time talk, and our audience may or may not have. Our audience predominantly going to be accounting and finance professionals. I do have a network of others, business owners, etc. But let's focus for a second, if we can, on accountancy and finance, because I've seen you at Cantex, I've seen you at Xerocon, you've been at the APA conference, and you've done an awful lot in our community, the finance community. Let's be honest, we are a little bit safe in what we want to do. We educate ourselves, we go and try and do qualifications, we move our careers forward in a very structured, regimented way. But actually, one of the things that I would say that I'm learning from the master, from yourself, is I want to do something different. I want to put my head above the parapet. I want to try and avoid this feeling of imposter syndrome I know there's something else. Yes, we've structured ourselves, we've gone through qualifications. So working with you, Brad, whether it's the team, whether it's the individual, any guidance for us, anything, giving us some thoughts about how we can raise our profiles and really make a difference in our lives?
So, truth, everyone is blagging it. So if you go on Google Brad Burton, everyone is blagging it. You'll see a blog that I wrote a couple of years ago. Everyone's blagging it. I know number one pop stars who've done number one on the charts, professional boxers, world champion boxers, dragons out of Dragons Den. They're all blagging it. That's the reality of it. And once you realize that, and I know them and we talk to them, they're blagging it. And this is the bit that people don't understand. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm supposed to come on and point at people and wave and this, that, and the other. All I'm doing is just doing what I've seen on TV or whatever. That's it. So everyone's blagging it. And one day you wake up, you're not blagging it and you can do it. And that's what will happen with you. So, when you start a job, I've got a friend of mine who's a carpenter. And when he first started, it took him 2 weeks to make a chair. Now he can do the same chair that took him 2 weeks after 5, 6, 10 years in the game. He can do it in 2 hours. So that is what expertise is about. And that's what you need to understand, that anyone that you see, anyone that you admire, who's an expert or appear in your field, or they've got high profile on social media, they're blagging it. They're blagging it. They had to start somewhere. They was once the beginner as well. So you need to start somewhere. And that's what I'd say. I'd get yourself a blank piece of paper and I'd get yourself a pen and I'd write, what can I do today with what I've got at the top? Put a line and just start writing about it and just start doing something. Look, one size doesn't fit all. If I go and get myself a designer suit and it fits me perfectly, and then you go and wear that same designer suit, Jamie, it doesn't fit you perfectly. So is the suit wrong? No, one size doesn't fit all. And what works for you may not work for me and vice versa. Find what works for you. And what works for me is having a shaved head, tattoos, and looking like a drug dealer from Salford. I'm not, by the way.
Anymore.
Thank you. There you go. Come on, Jamie. 4 years in the making that was. You know what? But this is what it's about. This is what it's about. We can all change. We can all change, but it all starts with you, because you'll never outperform your self-image. If your self-image is, I'm just a lonely accountant on APA, no. Get your shoulders back, get your head up high, and boom. That's what you got to do. It's all connected. So when you go see the APA conference and you see me come on there, I've got brand new trainers, I've got brand new jeans, brand new t-shirt, and I'm full of confidence and enthusiasm. And let me tell you something. When I come home after the APA conference, I'm not full of enthusiasm. I'm not high-fiving my kids and my family. It's just, so this is what you've got to recognize, is that there's a better version of you, but you need to switch that better version of you on at the appropriate times.
Love it. And as always, I mean, again, I think the words of wisdom there, Brad, is just start. Get over yourself. Just do something. If you want to stay on stage, you want to go and do a recording like this, whatever it is, you'll always get better. But you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? You've got to make that first start, because I'm guessing, Brad, there must have been a Brad when you stood up on the stage at some point and just totally flopped to where you are today, where you're amazing crowds. Tell us that.
So a couple of things. Firstly, I go back to the pre-pandemic. I could not look in the lens. I was like Stevie Wonder, right? Scared to look in the lens in case it stole my soul. Okay. So this is a learned skill that has only happened 3 years ago. I promise you. Before the pandemic, I could not have done this. Okay. So you've got to recognize that it wasn't easy for me. It wasn't easy for me. And nothing that you want to achieve is ever easy. I've died maybe 100 times on stage. Okay. The last time I've died as in died was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Okay. So I don't die anymore. But there's no rhyme or reason, and you're always going to have a bad day in your game. You have a bad day, you send a payment to the wrong person, you get a B instead of an A, or you get just things wrong. When you're on stage and you're having a bad day, you've got nowhere to hide, right? If you're a printer and you get a print job wrong, and sorry, Jamie, I've got the print job wrong, only me and you know about it on stage. You've got nowhere to hide. And this is what I say to people. So many people want to get on stage, but the only way that you're ever going to succeed on stage is by dying on stage. And most people don't want to die on stage. And I've died, like I say, 100 times. But I always ask that question: what did I like best about the performance, and what would I do differently next time? And that, like best next time, will serve you in any area of your business in your days.
And look, let me just touch on something you said earlier, Brad, because it's always been of interest to me, as a friend of yours. Like you say, you're full of energy, you're a ball of energy, you really give passion, heart, you change people's lives. I see it all the time. And then you go home and then you've got to get ready for your next gig, whether it's in the UK, around the world, whatever. What if anything motivates you? Is it your family? Is it your business? Is it what's in it? What's within you that motivates you to continue to change people's lives?
You know, it's about making a difference, and I mean that sincerely. But when it gets tough, and it has got tough, let me be quite clear. And my kids' thing is tattoos are hands. About 18 months ago, I was nearly bankrupt because of the nature of the pandemic. So I've got £1 million plus business. Pandemic comes along, and all of a sudden you've not got £1 million plus business. I was nearly bankrupt 18 months ago. Worst time ever. Like from a ability to be able to readapt, and that's what I've had to do. That is what I've had to do. But it's not just me; it's everyone, and we can all get through the pandemic. And everyone's been affected in some way, emotionally, mentally, financially, spiritually, physically. We've all been affected in some way. And even 4 years on, and people go, "Why are you banging on about the pandemic?" Because the world hasn't quite got its footing again since that point. So from my perspective, it is about making a difference. And this is what I'm doing. When I go into a team and I do my thing there, I'm not doing it to be jazz hands. I'm doing it to get the team working. I want to make a positive difference to this world. I want to make a positive difference to individuals. I want to make a positive difference to business. Because actually, that's what I don't think there's what I do. I don't think there's much of it in the UK. It's all about vertical markets and hedge funds and this, that, and the other. But look, if your head isn't right, I don't care how much money you're making. That isn't a success. So the key to this thing is about getting your business right, get your head right. That's when you get things right. That is what I want to do, is I want to help people to live better. When I look at my life and I look at my business situation, I'm now doing better on a personal level than I've ever done in my life from a business perspective. My business is minuscule compared to the way it was before. And that's another lesson that I've learned from my perspective. So it is about making a positive difference, and I continue to do that. And that is a driving force. And yes, of course, I like going on nice holidays and I like having nice things, but it is about making a primary difference, not only to my clients, to my own life, but to the lives of my family. And that's what drives me and keeps me going.
Right. Okay, Brad. So look, let's drill down a little bit, because obviously I know you said you do the three things now. You do the motivational speaking, you do the team development, but you do the one-to-one mentoring. A big part of our community, the finance community, we talk a good game. Let's put it this way. I'm going to lay the cards on the table, Brad. We talk a good game. We always talk about what we're going to do, how we're going to develop, what mentorship should be. And it's always feels as though we're going to do it. We think it's a good idea. So working with Brad, I'm guessing you hold people accountable, because I know you've done that with me in the past. So give me examples of good mentorship. What does good look like in the world of Brad?
So what I do is I ask somebody a straight question. So let's say they come to me and they want to stop smoking, okay? And you think, well, what do you know about stopping smoking? I'm a mindset coach. And you go, so think about me as like a programmer, okay? So if you've got a computer program and you're running it and it gets bugs, your development team go in there and they get rid of the bugs and it runs. But your brain is like a program. Your brain's like an operating system. And what's happened is your operating system, Jamie, will be different to my operating system based on your life, based on your family, based on things. So how you perceive the world will be based on your background, based on all these things. So what I do is I go in and I reprogram people's brains. Now, I've got no degree in psychology, but what I've done is I've changed my own brain, and I've got a track record of making this stuff happen. This isn't me bullshitting, and just I've got a track record of changing people's lives, and the way I do it is by going in there. So, for instance, somebody will come into to my door and say they want to stop smoking. Amongst other things, I ask them to give me a list of all the things they want fixing, so they'll do it. Let's say one of them stopping smoking. I'll say to someone, okay, so you want to stop smoking, and how serious do you want to stop smoking? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like serious. And they go 10. Okay, cool. And do you have children? And they go, yeah. Say, and if I was to put a gun to your head, right? If I was to put a gun to your head and I've got one bullet and I'm going to shoot you dead, or I'm going to shoot your kid, got one bullet, who's going? You say, oh, me. So you die for your children. You go, yes. You die for your children. You go, yes. I don't want you to die for your children. I want you to live for your children. So, do you want to stop smoking? And it's that, and it's like jolting people into this jolting people into this whole thing about doing what they want to do and giving them the tools, and they sometimes harsh, bedside manner in order to help them make change. And I can tell you right now, this is in the last a woman who smoked for 40 years stopped within one session of talking, and amongst other things. And this is I know what buttons to press. I know what buttons to press, and it's like I say, anyone with a degree is just someone who's smart, who's been given a degree by someone who's smart. So I've got my own degree, Bradism, And what it's about is about making change, but in a different way of doing it. I've got no education, I've got no degree, so consequently I do it my way. And you don't need a qualification if you can do the job. And that's exactly what I do. I give people permission to do the things that they keep talking about wanting to do.
And Brad, I'll be honest, I have borrowed a couple of your Bradisms in the past, I must admit. I use your Bradism.
Jamie, it's not stealing when you're good friends, mate. So you can do whatever you want.
I know. By the way, I always ask your permission. But let's talk about live examples. And the reason why I want to do this is because, look, I've had guests on the podcast previously who've told me that they've changed people's lives and they've done all this stuff, and I'm sure they have. But we've got live examples, people in our community, a finance community, and I'm going to shout out and name a couple. So I'm going to start with the wonderful Rachael Long, right? Now, you know, and I know Rachael of old. Rachael's a great manager. She's been in a role for many, many years, well respected in the finance community and finance industry. But she stood up at some point and went, you know what? I want to be more confident. I want to be a speaker. I want to be known in an industry, a wider, and I want to be respected. And I know Rachael of old and I know Rachael today. And you know what? It is amazing, her transformation. When I put the flag up and go, right, who wants to come and speak at the next conference of 500 people? Rachel's there at the front of the queue. She's standing there with her, look, Jamie, you've got to have me. I'm on there. Doesn't matter what you want me to do. And it's one of those where she clearly has got a lot of confidence, but her speaking style, the way she presents, everything has changed. So look, there's one example, Brad. So whatever magic you did, and I'm not saying it's magic, you obviously took Rachael through a process, but just give us some glimpses of how you work with Rachael. What did you do that our finance community listening to this podcast can just sort of listen up and maybe try and get the wonderful Brad Burton to work with you on a personal level?
This is what we did. So I've gone through a process. I'm not going to reveal what's in here, right? Although I might. And so this is my workbook, effectively, about me, how I train people. And I've systemized everything. I systemized every single thing. And that one of the things that I look at is I call it RACE. So reputation, assets, credibility, and experience. You can steal this, people, and because it works for every area of your life and your business and your world. So when I first started out as a speaker, my reputation was zero. My assets, photo showreel, was zero. My credibility, I'd not spoke anywhere. Nobody said, oh, Brad Burton's amazing, was zero. My experience was zero. If I'd have contacted JCB or I'd have contacted APA, hey, I'm a motivational speaker, really. Send us your stuff, Brad. Boom, done. And actually, one of the things that I had to recognize is I had to move up that RACE score. So my reputation, my assets, my credibility and experience. That's what I looked at with Rachael. I said, Rachael, let's talk about your reputation, assets and credibility and experience. And there was things that she had and done that she never shared with the world. And just by sharing them, it gives her a lot more clout and a lot more credibility. So Rachael is exceptional. She really is. And I can say, so proud of her. I feel like a proud father at times when she does these things, such as speaking at a conference and what have you. But no, it's, everyone can be a better version of ourselves. And it's a case of committing. If you look at any expert speaker, or any expert influencer within a profession, what is it that they're doing? Go and copy that. And that's what I say, study everyone, copy no one. Right. And that's what I've done. I've studied the world and I copy no one on my own person. And that's what Rachael does as well. She brings that to the party.
And look, we're coming up to the 30-minute mark. I'm very conscious your little ticker timer's going, Mike.
I'm good. I've got 10 minutes, so let's go with 10 minutes. I've got 10 minutes left.
10 minutes. So look, let's give another shout out. So we had somebody in our community who was absolutely very confident. He was, I would call, a rough diamond, somebody that ultimately came along, was very consciously trying to get involved and was always pushing himself forward. A chap called Stewart Griffiths, our community will know him very well. And you've worked with Stewart. So he put himself forward, he jumped on your program, and it's literally night and day, the change I've seen in Stewart. So his professionalism, the way he attacks and talks and speaks, presents, he's still a bundle of energy, and that you'll never change that about Stewart. But I'll be honest, again, the program you took Stewart for, I've seen a huge difference. He has become so much more of a professional speaker in his approach. Just share a little bit about Stewart and a bit of wisdom about Stewart, please, Brad.
Yeah, once again, I'll tell you what blows my mind. He's 51 years old. He's like the most handsome, youngest. I don't know what he's drinking, but and I'm not. But if I was, I would. Look, Stewart, is that, one of the things that he's always had about him, Stewart, is swagger. He's got a natural swagger about him. He's got a natural level of assertiveness. But what he needed to do is he needed to focus that. And that's what we did. We focused that. So actually, you're not got this necessarily grenade. It's more focused. But I'm a bundle of energy as well. And I've had to learn over time. But what the great thing is the best way through a minefield or a minefield is by following someone that has been through a minefield. And that's what he's done. And that's what we did. We cut off, I don't know what time we saved, but by getting involved as we did, we saved years. And actually, one of the things that I do is and I'll tell you this, is I push people to a point of breaking. I never break anyone, but I push people to a point of breaking. And I'd rather somebody died, sat in front of me, trying to present, than they did in front of your conference with 500 people and die. So that's what I do, is I'm almost like a drill sergeant in my approach, in that I don't accept, I don't accept excuses. And if I said to you right now, because so many people, I don't know what to say as a speaker, I'm not sure what to. Jamie, tell me about your first animal, first pet.
Dog. Little black dog, Sam, his name was.
Tell me a funny story about Sam.
He once got drunk. My mother poured a big bottle of red.
So you see, we could have gone into that, but you see straight away, right? You just come up with Sam. It's in your, and this is once you realise that, as a speaker, you just did that on the fly there. We've not been prompted. And that's what I'm trying to say to speakers, that you've got it all upstairs. It's all there. So what we do, I need to write on the notes. No, you don't. It's all up there. So what you need to have is a start, a middle, and an end. And once you know where your start is, your middle, and your end, you're away. And this is what I'm like. It's a bit like with me and my stories. I've got loads of stories. And the more stories that you've got, the more back catalogue, the more you can end up. You start here, end up here, and so forth. And that's what we do. So we looked at Stewart's stories. We looked at Rachael's stories, and we said, right, what's a start, what's a middle, what's an end? And once you start, the more you've got from your start, let's say 10 starts, 10 middles, 10 ends, it's a doddle. It's just not the big thing that it is. And also what we do is we move with purpose. And I'm going to do something right now. Hello everyone, my name is Brad Burton, the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. Hello everyone, so my name is Brad Burton. I'm the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. And what I'm going to talk about is, so right now, look at the difference. I said exactly the same, but it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. It's about eye contact, moving with purpose, tonality, slowing down, pausing, all these things you start bringing together. That is what makes an expert speaker.
Bombshells after one, after another. Brad, look, we're coming sort of the end of the podcast, but as always, I ask all my guests, can you give us some words of wisdom? Now, you've just dropped 30 minutes worth of wisdom. It's all for free, as they say. His business model's the worst in the world. He fixes them and then dumps them. But look, Brad, our audience are going to be sort of sitting there now going, Brad's fired me up. I really want to go and do something. I've got to do it. I know my first step is do something. How do they plan it? What do they do? They start their first thing. They might do a podcast. They might come on with me. They might go and do a conference. What do they do? What words of wisdom can you give them to try and think about that now? What's next for them in their careers?
So think about your next step, not the next 5 steps, not the next 10 steps, but the next step. In order for you to get to where you want to get to, what is the next step that you've got to take? Go and do that. And this is where people go wrong. They try to skip the steps. They want to jump from the bottom to the top. And that is when it becomes problematic. So work out right now, get a piece of paper and write, what's the next step? What's the next step for my life? What's the next step for my relationships? What's the next step for my career? What's the next step for my hobbies? What's the next step? And just the next step, and just move yourself forward. And that's the key to it. Slow progress is progress. And too many people in today's social media age kind of want to skip the steps. They want to spend a load of money on a course, and then the next thing they're speaking on stage. And actually, that's great. And you can speak on stage, but that doesn't make you a professional speaker. It makes you somebody who's paid to be on stage. So really, this is a case of you, little and often, make change, but recognize it's about the next step, not the next 5, not the next 10.
Superb, Brad. Look, within 1 minute, that's how professional we are. We've done it with 30 minutes. Brad, as always, you've done lots of lives for us. I know you're coming. I'm not going to timestamp this podcast, but you've been at our conferences previously. You're going to be our VIP guest at this year's. You have become the pillar that when people ask me what's happening at the conference, every year is the same. is Brad going to be there? This year, we thought we'd give
Yeah.
you what you absolutely deserve is VIP status. So you will be there and sort of heart, mind, and soul. You will be there to speak to the people, speak to our audience, 500 people. And look, it's an absolute honor to call you a friend, but also listen and learn from you because, as you said, we all learn. Every day's a learning day, as they say. I learn most of my speaking bits from you, I promise. And most people on this podcast or listening or watching can learn a lot from this man. So, Brad, you got workwithbrad.biz. Go on. This is your time. Your shout out. How do they get hold of you? Where's your website? And where are you in the world over the coming months?
So listen, I think from my perspective, check out bradburton.biz/15. If anything that I've talked about in today has kind of spoke to you, bradburton.biz/1515, that'll allow you to book a 15-minute conversation with me, completely free of charge. There'll be no sales pitch unless you want one. I'll give you an extra 5 minutes at the end. And really, I will do what I can to help you with your challenge, problem, question. I will answer it as honestly as possible. And if I can fix it, worst business model ever. If I can fix it in 15 minutes, I will do. And if I can't fix it in 15 minutes, I'll tell you how long I believe it's going to take to fix. bradburton.biz/15.
Thank you, Brad. And as always, please listen into today's podcast. You'll be able to download it on all of your players. It'll be available on our YouTube. Brad, absolute pleasure, mate. Hopefully we'll get you on again at some point. For now, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you all.